All right, YouTube friends, hello. We're back. Jordan is at Atlanta. Jordan, you're not in a room with a closet with a bunch of Coke stuff behind you.
No.
How'd you get out of the closet life?
Well, careful how you say that. There's anything wrong with that. They felt really bad for me actually here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and I got here on yesterday, and they're like, "Listen, we've got a special room for you. You don't have to go in the closet and sit on Coke bottles and stuff, and you'll love it." And I'm like, "You don't have to do that." I'm like, "I'm fine. I really don't care. I'm not picky." And they're like, "No, no, no. We got this special like VIP room that we use. It's kind of like tucked away, which I didn't even know existed." And they're like, they were actually going to make me a special backdrop of like Coke cans, but they just didn't have time to do it. So it's very nice. But no, I'm in an actual room with tables and chairs, and it's very different than normal. So here we are.
Look at you moving up in the world. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Miss my broom closet.
Well, let's get to the podcast.
Do it.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck. I'm along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi. We are motorsports writers for The Athletic, and today we are here to talk about the abbreviated Atlanta Motor Speedway race. Jordan is at Atlanta Motor Speedway. He's in a very lovely room that they gave him. So if you heard the last podcast from Atlanta, he was in a room with a bunch of assorted Coke stuff or all sorts of gear, and you're moving up in the world, Jordan. So
no broom closet today. No broom closet. Fun race though, man. I'm really looking forward to talking about this with you because I think you and I are going to be in agreement, and I almost feel like we're kind of in the minority a little bit.
Yeah, I feel sad because I think we are going to agree. We haven't talked about the race at all, but I just feel like we're going to end up on the same side of things. And a lot of people on Twitter are like really mad. And we can try to go through some of the reasons. We're obviously, I don't think we're going to agree with the people, but we can sort of sort through why. But so, I mean, look, I mean, to me, this might have been the best race of the year. I thought it was outstanding. Oh, you cringed already. This was really, really good race. Really, really good.
It was really, really good. It was really, really good. I don't know if I want to go with the best race of the year. Kansas was pretty darn special. This was really good though. And you know what I liked about this race is yes, it was a super speedway race and all of the craziness, but it did feel like the drivers had some element of control tonight. Like they had to fight really hard, especially early on when the track was really hot still, to hold, to wrestle their cars. And it wasn't just pack racing. There was something more to it. It was a lot of respects. It reminded me of the old Daytona where handling was so much paramount there. I thought it was great. Drivers could make moves, by the way, like unlike we've seen at Talladega and Daytona with this car. You could make moves, you could swing out, you could make passes. I thought this race delivered in a lot of respects. And I tweeted this tonight, and I stand by it. I watched this tonight, and my mind was made up about this track. I don't miss the old configuration. I think what they did here was the smart thing. And I think you're starting to see what it's coming to be now, where yes, it's super speedway racing, but it's going to start to wear a little bit, and you're going to have a little bit of elements of intermediate racing as well. That makes sense?
Look, I mean, excitement wise,
yeah,
I don't see how you could argue that this track is, I mean, and look, in that sense, look, apologies to Marcus Smith. Sorry. I was absolutely super big critic of going to this. And obviously, look, I mean, I still think with the next gen car, a mile and a half tracks, you would have had some good shows, but from an excitement factor, I mean, this was thrilling. This was great stuff. I mean, it's good. What can you say? If you tune into NASCAR to be entertained, they're giving you the entertainment with the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. They just are. It's just it's wild. Look, I mean, Darrell Waltrip says tonight on Twitter, I'm a driver, owner, TV personality, but most of all, race fan. Tonight's race was the best I've ever seen. Wow. How about that? But
that's wow. Okay.
I mean, right. So people are being thrilled by what they saw. I mean, I really think if you just take the action, I mean, stage one, originally it starts out and they sort of immediately get kind of single file for a bit. And you're like, uh-oh, is this going to be like a single file train kind of race? But toward the end of stage one and from then on, and especially as the rain got closer and closer and closer, the action just was intense. It picked up. It was really great. I mean, I think if you like, I tweeted a version of this, but if you watched the Chicago race for the first time last week, like if you were a new fan, you're like, oh, I'll give NASCAR a try. All right, check it out. And then let's say you carried over and you saw this tonight, you'd be like, oh my gosh, what have I been missing all my life? Like, this is incredible.
It's a perfect follow. It was the perfect follow-up for what Chicago was, is you gave consumers an entertaining meal basically and said, here, try this. And then they came back and they're like, oh, wow, I want more of this. And then you gave them something else even better. It was perfect.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, and this is where we can start talking about the rain, I guess, right? You really can't have it both ways. There's no question in my mind, zero question, that the rain, the impending weather, had a major outcome on the excitement factor of the race, right? As they're even as they're approaching halfway, and they end up getting 55 more laps past halfway. But as halfway is coming, lap 130, you're like, are they even going to get there? Because the rain is coming, and we know a lot of times ahead of the rain could be lightning, and that could have shut it down anytime, right? So, the rain's coming, the intensity's picking up. Everybody, especially once they get to the end of stage 2, everybody's going, go, you've got to go now. Like this, you cannot wait. And they all went. Everybody was going. Everybody knew that the race could end at any time. That was a known. It wasn't like it surprised anybody. It wasn't like a storm popped up out of nowhere, or like there was a random lightning strike and like, oh my gosh, the race is over. Everybody saw this coming from the green flag, this big wave of storm. And it wasn't the kind of storm where it was going to be like scattered showers. This was like a big, big blob of rain that was going to take hours to go to pass through. Hours, I mean, raining and then trying to dry the track, all this stuff. When you factor in that it was a night race, not only a night race, but a Sunday night race, not just a Saturday, a Sunday night, which I believe NASCAR, we haven't seen many of these Sunday night races, but at NASCAR is absolutely going to treat that differently than a Saturday night race. They know people have got to get
And they
home.
did, because I swear they officiated it a little bit differently tonight with a couple of non-caution calls.
Yep. They let there was a Gregson one where I think he collided with Busch and they were both slowed, but they didn't call caution for it. And then the Harvick one at the end, I mean, they let that go. And they were trying to get as much racing as they could, I think, right?
They followed the whistle, and I don't really have a problem with either. They were consistent, which is what we asked for. And I don't have a problem with it because I don't think in either case those necessarily warranted a caution. So I was okay with that.
Well, 90% of the time they are a caution, whether they want, right?
Depends, yeah.
Yeah. So, and they were consistent, you're saying, compared to themselves tonight, but not
tonight. Oh yeah,
races.
not on a race-to-race basis, not at all.
Yeah. So look, I mean, okay, so we all know the rain's coming. So, but that raises the excitement factor. But the trade-off is you don't know when it's coming. And whenever it comes, we just have to accept that's it. You don't get to decide when the lightning strike happens or when the first drops start falling. So there's an incident, with the Bubba Priest Stenhouse kind of incident, right? And that stops the race. They're going under caution. And as they're cleaning up that, the sprinkles start. And this is where I think people were most upset on Twitter. I asked people why they're upset. People felt like, well, wait a minute, you just wasted 10 more laps under caution. It was sprinkling, it was drizzling. You could have gone back to green before the real rain hit. I cannot take that side in even the slightest because of Daytona August race last year, right? I mean, we were screaming on this podcast last year. Unbelievable. I can't believe they wrecked the entire field. How could they do that? How could they be, they've got to be more responsible. Do they need rain sensors around the track? Okay, everybody saw this rain was coming for hours. Everybody saw it. Drops start to fall. Unless the rain stops, unless there's no more drops and they say, okay, I think we have a little bit more time. It's no rain right now. Let's try to get some more laps in. Unless that was the case, which wasn't the case, I think you have to see if it stops. And if it doesn't stop, that's it. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. And I think Daytona was pardon the pun, a watershed moment of how they officiate these races when it comes to rain. and they do not want to see that again. They made a mistake. NASCAR admits that, and you can't do it. And there was rain falling. It wasn't a lot of rain, but there was rain falling, and it also was an instance of not only is there a little bit of rain falling, more is coming, and that more could happen at any second. And you don't, and that's kind of what happened at Daytona, which was one part of the track it wasn't raining, and then all of a sudden it was raining. And you don't know when that's going to happen. At these speeds on this kind of track, you can't do that. I don't really have I have zero issue with how this played out. They did the right thing. They were hoping that this kind of blew over, get back to racing. It didn't. And then as soon as it picked up, by the way, they called him to pit road and stopped it. It's really hard to quibble with how this played out.
I think also, it's a matter of like, is it fair to everybody? And the fact that everybody knew it was coming, every driver's being told, hey, rain is 10 minutes out. Rain is I mean, it's coming. So last week we had a situation with the race being shortened, and then, that some teams felt like, well, this is not fair because some of them have already made our pit stop, and then you just decided this. In this case, it was fair to everybody because everybody was on the same page. Everybody knew what was going to happen. To me, that's my opinion. I think the one person who could have said this is not fair, had things gone a little bit differently, would have potentially been Michael McDowell, because his strategy was, well, let me try to milk it. He was on like sort of the old Keselowski strategy where he's trying to milk his fuel for as long as he can. He'd gone 91 laps without pitting by the time they ended that race, and his fuel had to be practically nothing, right? He's trying to hang on to a playoff spot, which he currently is in the playoffs right now in the 16th spot because of this result. Had they run it a few more laps, he runs out of fuel or something, then you go, if you're him, you're like, well, that's not fair. You could have called us red or whatever. So I really think if you go down through the order, everybody knew it was coming. Keselowski finished the 6th. If you're a Keselowski fan, you're upset, you're mad that he was in this situation where he was leading, he had to make the decision to pit. They say, well, he could have stayed out. Well, you talked to Matt McCall, so why don't you tell us how much could they have made it?
No, they could not have made it. One, Brad was leading, and two, they just did that thing. If the race would have restarted, they were going to run out. They could not go any further than they had gone. They had hit their breaking point, and to them it was a no-brainer almost when you looked at the numbers and everything like this. They had no choice but to pit, and so they have no regrets. I mean, it was a tough spot to be in, and they debated about it on the radio, but they looked at the numbers and they were going to run out. Period.
Yeah, and I think. Well, you go, okay, well, and I'm not sure if he and McDowell had pitted on the exact same lap.
They did not.
Oh, okay.
They pitted, McDowell pitted, and I'm going off memory here, but I'm pretty, McCall said they pitted before McDowell, which is why they had to pit, which is why McDowell was able to stay out longer.
Interesting. Okay. Well, and even so, like, let's say they had pitted on the same lap, because that was what I had figured, right? So they end up going 20 laps. At the time, Matt McCall was telling Brad Keselowski, I think we can go 14 laps after the stage 3 start. I think we can go 14 laps, but maybe only 12 because you've been leading. As you said, he's leading. You're not getting as good fuel mileage as Justin Haley claimed was the case for him in the Xfinity race, right? So yeah, there's no way. Like it was just a bad break, bad timing for them. That's just what happened, right? It happened. So again, you can be upset if you're a Keselowski fan, but to blame NASCAR or somebody for not doing this, not doing that, I think everybody knew what was coming. They operated under that strategy, and that's why I can't be upset about it. Now, Jordan, of course, another point that people have made on Twitter is, well, why didn't they start it earlier? And that's something I can't know. Of course, I could be with you on that one.
That's fine.
Why are we doing a Sunday night race? People are saying you could have got the whole race in. It didn't rain all day.
That's great. Right? And it was also hotter than the Earth's surface here. So, or sun surface, whatever's hotter it was here today.
The Earth's surface is getting hot. Also,
yeah, Jordan, that too. Well, it was hotter than Dickens here, and it was miserable. This was not. You would not have a sporting event in this weather. It's not enjoyable. I wouldn't ask people to come out and sit in this and pay money to this. I get why they moved it to the evening now. Could you maybe have done it an hour earlier? Yeah, I mean, there's, possibly, but I go back to what I said, like, it is a trade-off. And the trade-off is TV is offering you this opportunity to be Sunday night, take it. It's a big night, take it. And again, it's much better than what we've seen in years past here where they've done, mid-afternoon starts and it's not comfortable. It's not fun. And Atlanta's had issues with attendance. They're trying to figure out how to get more people coming off this racetrack. Having it at night, they hope is a better way to do that. For me, for what I saw tonight, the crowd looked pretty decent. I don't know what was better than last year, but it certainly seemed better. So I get the move. I hear the logic, but it's a lot of 2020 hindsight because I also would say this. If you start this race earlier, there would have been a whole bunch of people complaining, and you also would not have had people in the grandstand.
Well, and also there's been some huge thunderstorms come in the afternoon in Atlanta with, it's Atlanta in the summertime. Like,
it's not even, it is what it is. When we saw a week ago, we were in a city that has just gone through a drought. And then in one day, they got more rain than they had for the last 30. Like sometimes you're bad luck. And I mean, you can say what you want, but I don't know what NASCAR is supposed to do here. Like you try to appease everybody. This seems like the best solution of, well, let's get these fans out of the heat in bad conditions and let's try to put it at night and make it easier on everybody. Oh, by the way, we're going to be in prime time. Like it's a win. It is a win.
I'm still not sold on the Sunday night thing. I need to see a little bit more. I mean, the Nashville thing, they tried it. I guess it was okay. I get the argument here. But the fact is, like, that's not a decision that was made today. So if you're criticizing, I don't understand what the criticism is today. Now, if people are saying that they could have moved up the start time, well, the policy is you can move up the start time by 1 hour with 24 hours notice. So
can I just say this too? It was only 50-50 chance of rain.
I think it was 40% chance.
Okay. Well, even that.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not like it was a 85, you didn't know. It was kind of a crapshoot.
And so, so if you'd gotten another hour, would you finish the race? Probably. Now, on race day, if they'd seen the race, they've seen the rain coming, right? They could have moved it up about 20 minutes, maybe because the green flag was at 7:20. So they probably could have moved it close to 7 where they would have come on the air and, started the race as they did with Nashville kind of situation, right? When they moved that race up 17 minutes. So, yes, you add another 17 minutes of racing before the rain comes. Okay, you're still not getting the race in. And so somebody is still going to be upset with whoever's leading. The rain comes. How did this happen? When did this happen? Why? Okay, it's just, I just am, look, I know probably today I'm sounding like a NASCAR apologist. I'm absolutely happy to criticize NASCAR when I feel like NASCAR deserves criticism. In this case, I'm just not seeing where the outrage is coming from. I got almost over 1,000 replies on Twitter when I asked why people are mad. So people are mad.
Well, and I read your replies because I kind of wanted to prepare for this. And someone were like, well, they wasted a bunch of laps under caution. It was raining. They literally drops were falling down the track. Now, it wasn't a lot, but it was raining. So to sit there and say, oh, go back to green, they're not going to do that. It doesn't make sense.
Imagine what would have happened if they said, it's only drizzling, let's go back. And they said, thumbs up from the drivers. And drivers are like, okay. And they go back and they wreck the field just like they did at Daytona. Imagine what the fans would say then. Oh my gosh.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And in these situations, it's probably better to err on the side of caution than to go the other way, because we've seen what the other way does.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the rain conversation. I don't really know there's much more to add to that, honestly.
I've got something to piggyback. I got something to piggyback off of this, and you and I kind of talked about this on Friday in a phone conversation, and I think it reinforced it tonight. The race distance tonight was just under 300 miles. Why are these races 400, 500 miles? Why? I mean, 300 miles is a pretty good distance. We didn't talk about it in the podcast last week. I didn't think about it, but last week's race was cut by 25 laps. That 75 laps was perfect. Like, we didn't need 100 laps of that race. That was enough of a race where you're like, that was great, I want more of that, and not too much where you're like, oh, okay, enough. And I felt like tonight could have gone a little bit longer, nice 300, nice round 300 number would have been perfect, but it wasn't that far off. And I think we need to start looking at that a little bit too, as we start talking about TV times and when to start races and weather and all of this stuff. Like shorter races are not a bad thing.
Yeah, so let's see. You said, okay, so actually I think this is only about 277 miles tonight.
Okay, so we're
But
23 miles away from three. And again, I would add 23 more miles. Let's make this a nice round 300.
yeah, so if you do that, okay, so you did they ended up doing 277 miles in 2 hours and 34 minutes. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason that this needs to take another hour, honestly.
Especially when you're starting at 7
first of all, this
o'clock.
race was spectacular. So I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the racing,
Absolutely, it was
but
great.
part of the racing being this good, again, is the urgency of the rain coming, the urgency of that. We only know we have so much time left. I don't know that we would have seen the same product if it's like, all right, there's no rain coming. You know, we've got plenty of laps left. Let's take our time here. I mean, like Keselowski, for instance, I was listening to, for whatever reason, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to listen to Keselowski and TJ Majors tonight because TJ is so good on the radio at these races. So I just parked it on his radio the entire night. And I mean, you know, he was running around, I don't know, 15th, 17th, something for a decent amount. He was outside the top 10. Then he kind of gets up there and they tell him, hey, start going. He's making moves. Buscher's leading. And he really makes moves because he felt the urgency. It was time to go. Again, we've seen over and over again, there's not that much incentive aside from, you know, of course, stage points, sure, at the end of stages, but if you're not in position to get stage points and, you know, I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot to be said for urgency. I don't know how you replicate the feeling of the rain's coming. It could end at any time.
I mean, I think what the solution is, Jeff, is we don't give them the race distance and we just have like a mystery lap. Like it's just like
spin the wheel of
exactly.
the mystery lap. Yeah.
This is it. They're like halfway through like stage 1 or stage 2. Like, this is it, guys. We've got 30 laps to go. Oh, only 5 to go.
Once you reach lap 150, the wheel has been spun and the teams don't know what it is. And then they reveal it and they're like, only 25 laps left. They're like, ah,
love it.
Yeah. And then it really gets crazy. Yeah. But, anyway, I don't know. So I really don't have anything more to say about the weather itself, but, I mean, I'm happy to talk more about the racing because I just thought, I don't know. The old Daytona type style of super speedway racing, we sort of thought was gone, I mean, once Daytona got repaved, we just haven't really seen that, where the handling was the issue, the slick track, the summer race. And you even heard drivers talking about on the radio. I mean, and you said earlier in the podcast, I really think this is the closest thing we've seen to that, where you have a drafting style feel, but handling still involved. The cars are not just stuck to the track. And hey, it makes for a show when they got to drive it. So it was good. Checks the box for me, you know?
We've talked about in this podcast, like sometimes in NASCAR, you don't always see the driver's ability showcased because of the car or because of the tracks or whatever, where in other forms of racing, Formula One or IndyCar, you could see like these guys are like the edge of control. You know, Atlanta or Kansas this year was an example of that, where we knew these guys were on the edge of control. We could see how hard they were working and their ability was coming out. I thought the same thing tonight. There was times where these cars were jumping all over the place. Drivers had to wrestle. Tyler Reddick's near crash where he hung on to it. And there's numerous examples. That to me puts NASCAR in a great light of people watching this going, I can't do that. These guys are incredible.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, this is something we've kind of struggled with at times, especially with the next gen car, where you're like, how do we tell who are the good drivers anymore in some cases, right? And you know, the whole 550 package era, I think, was part of that too. But I mean, if you can see the guys wheeling it, it's the same thing. It's the same. One of the reasons we loved the street course last week, right? It challenged them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It made it. We knew it was hard for them. We knew some of the best drivers were making mistakes. That's what we want to see. We don't want it to be super easy. We want it to see how hard it is at the top level of NASCAR. So it's great.
Loved it.
William Byron wins the race, his 4th win of the year. He had only won 4 races in his entire career before that. before the season. But one thing that's interesting is, he started the season off well, then he gets the penalty, right? One gets overturned, but then he gets the other penalty, the 60-point penalty, loses playoff points as well. And it's like, well, he was probably gonna win the regular season championship, but so much for that in a way. Well, now Jordan, he's stormed all the way back, and he is now leading the regular season championship points by 21 over Martin Truex Jr., takes the points lead. It's almost like a ball don't lie moment where, he gets him back anyway. If you give him his 60 points back, he's up by 81. So he's having a heck of a season. You didn't need this rain shortened win today to know that, but it certainly helps him, and it certainly helps get his regular season position and his playoff points back to a better place where you're thinking, okay, yep, it seems like a Byron breakout year.
Well, and it's that, and in addition to the bonus points you get for each win, he's got a good chance to win the regular season. So you add both of those together,
which is 3 more wins.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you're looking at this going, well, he's going to get out of round one probably for sure now, because those bonus points are going to go a long way unless he completely falls off the earth. And you would think in round two, that's going to, I want to say it's a lock because that's not true, but he's like, that's certainly going to help him go a long way. So you almost have to pencil him in at this point of making the final 8, that round of 8. That's a big thing. And so it shows you the value of winning the regular season. It shows you the value of winning races. And if you can do both of those together, it's a recipe we have seen Kyle Busch do, Martin Truex, and Chase Elliott do in recent years. And it served them very well. And it seems like it's going to serve William Byron very well.
Meanwhile, close calls for Daniel Suarez, who's looking for a win. He would have made it 3 in a row for Trackhouse with 3 different drivers. That would have been unbelievable.
I don't know if that's happened. Maybe it's happened before in NASCAR history. I don't know. I'd be curious.
You would think at some point, maybe like a Hendrick or a Gibbs with the 4-car powerhouse teams, maybe, I don't know, but it would be pretty damn hard, obviously.
Yeah, it can't happen too much. Well,
yeah.
Can I ask you? Okay, go ahead and finish that, and I'm going to circle back. I'm going to ask you a question related to this.
Well, below them, the next 3 guys, Suarez, Allmendinger, McDowell, obviously all needed a win.
Yeah.
But aside from not getting the win, for all 3 of those guys, the points that they get was huge. And Suarez and McDowell now they've each moved up 2 spots into the playoffs. They were both out of the playoffs to start this evening. Now Suarez is 15th in points, McDowell 16th. Bubba Wallace falls out. Ty Gibbs falls out. Bowman falls further. Bowman ended up finishing 26th after his incident, where a few weeks ago he was 16th, and you're like, oh wow, he's completely erased that problem. And then he's just had some bad numbers lately. Chase Elliott, as you've been noting, the score 1 in your column here, because Chase Elliott actually lost ground tonight. He finished 13th, but his competitors not Ty Gibbs now, because Ty Gibbs fell down so much. So his competitor now is McDowell, and he lost points to McDowell. So now Elliott is 60 points out with 7 races left. Is that 7 races to go?
7 races to go.
So it makes it a little bit harder now.
Margin of error. And it comes down to, here's my question for you.
Yeah.
While it was a good points night for Michael McDowell and Daniel Suarez, and that both of them, especially McDowell, by the way, is in a points position to make the playoffs. Do you leave here, if you're them, do you leave here happy and saying, hey, we had a great opportunity tonight, we had a great points night, we're in a good spot, happy with that? Or do you leave here kind of lamenting the fact that we let one get away because winning would have locked us in the playoffs, whereas the position we're in now is pretty tenuous? And I think it's fair to say in Michael McDowell's case, at least for sure, can he keep this up for 7 more weeks? I don't think so. And so how do you feel if you're them tonight? Are you happy with where you finished and what you did tonight? Or are you looking at this going, oh man, this is a missed opportunity?
I think it's 2 different answers. I think if you're Suarez, you're like, dang, oh man, I wish we were so close. We were 1 spot close. We could have locked ourselves in with a win. He probably feels like he really could have used that. McDowell, hanging on with his tiny, tiny, tiny amount of fuel. I think you're thanking your lucky stars that situation worked out for you. If you run out of fuel, let's see. So there was 27 cars on the lead lap.
Ooh.
If he runs out of fuel, he probably goes, especially if it's still, I don't know if it's still under caution or whatever. Whenever he runs out, he probably goes from 4th to 27th.
23 points.
I mean, that's a huge, yeah. So I think if you're him, you're like, wow, boy, did we get a great break tonight. I mean, it's, he was never in position where you're like, oh, McDowell's going to win this thing. Where Suarez, I think, was up there a little bit more and maybe have more of a shot, especially to finish second. You think, man, what could we have done just a little bit differently? So I think it's two different answers. I think it's a great question, but yeah. And of course I don't, yeah, I have less faith in McDowell's team. I mean, you look at Bubba Wallace falls out, right? But with tracks like Michigan coming up and places like that, like, aren't you more confident that Bubba's going to, although I will say, I start to say that and I think, well,
You got 2 road courses though
road
coming
courses.
up, and they're both really good at Daytona. I don't, it's kind of a wash, and that's where
Yeah.
I kind of go back and forth. If I'm McDowell, I'm like, yeah, we kind of stole a bunch of points tonight, but the opportunities for him to win aren't necessarily there on a week to week basis all the time. And this was one that you got away that slipped away. Whereas Suarez, we have seen that team have the ability to run up front on a variety of tracks more often. And so, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I honestly, at the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to matter because I still think Chase Elliott's going to win a race.
You
And
do?
I do. I mean, he came in tonight on 3 straight top 5 finishes. Like, he's been running better.
What race
And
is he going to win? He's got 7 chances left.
I mean, he could win conceivably just about any of them,
Well,
honestly.
he could, but you're saying he's going to. I've kind of lost my faith that
Why? They've been running. I mean, they've been running sneakily better. Like, I mean, like I said, they had 3 straight top 5 finishes coming in. They were starting to do things. They were starting to look like the team that they usually are.
I mean,
I
you can't
mean,
just turn it on. I mean, you can't just
I don't
be
think
like,
I don't think they've turned it on. I think they've. I mean, you look at their numbers.
no,
They have got.
I'm saying at this point, okay, like, is he going to go to New Hampshire and win?
Yeah, he could. I don't know. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know. I mean, he won at Pocono a year ago. He's really good at Michigan.
What do we got left? We've got New Hampshire,
Yep.
Pocono,
Yep. Richmond,
Richmond.
where his team, by the way, finished second in this spring race, and Hendrick dominated earlier this year.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to beat Byron and Larson
That's fine.
and Bowman, who's on
Okay.
2-2.
Well, he's running better than Bowman right now, and he has more consistency than
Yeah.
Larson has. So,
Yeah.
and then after that, you go Richmond, and then you go
Indy Road Course
you
or
got
walk
Indy Road,
Michigan.
you go Michigan, Indy Road Course, Watkins Glen, Daytona. I mean, that's conceivable. He could win any. I mean, I'm not.
No, I've never said that he can't win. I'm just saying he's running out of chances here.
Oh no, I don't. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, 100% agree. Each passing week that goes by with you don't win, and especially tonight when you really are losing points now. Like, and it goes back to what I said. Each passing week that you don't go back with a win, like, the pressure is going to start mounting, and you're like, oof, okay, I just think at the end of the day that these guys are in a position to get a win. Now, again, you go to New Hampshire and you don't win, you go to Richmond and you don't win, and all of a sudden you got 5 races to go. That gets a little. I'll tell you what. I think it's very realistic, and I would put money on it. I don't think all 4 Hendrick cars get in the playoffs at this point.
No, because I'm not seeing Bowman is really falling back now.
He needs a win, and that you talk about performance. That team is not. They don't have it.
I mean, when he got up to 16th in points, or when he was like right there after missing all those races, you're like, wow, it's super impressive because he'd had such a strong season before that and everything.
Yeah, he was leading the points at one. I mean, he was leading the points.
Yeah, absolutely. And then,
You're
just like, the fact that they've had 3 or whatever, how many bad weeks now to lose their ground. I mean, all the way back to 22nd in points. That's too much ground to make up, I think, points wise. So now you're like, okay, well, is Bowman going to win? And, I'm not seeing that right now. And again, the same question for Elliott. I mean, Bowman and Elliott are right next to each other in points at this time. So, I don't think all 400 cars are going to make it. I'm not even sure more than 2 are going to make it. Let's be honest. It might be only 200 cars. That would be the shock of the year. But
man, all those points you missed by missing races sure going to come back and bite you in the butt.
Well, I mean, I'd have to give one in your column for that too.
It's a big column at this point.
Oh, you're always right, aren't you?
I didn't say that. Did not say that. Did not say that. Not always right, just often.
Anyway, yeah, no, I think it's very interesting. I mean, you could have a situation where um all the Penske drivers don't make it, all the Gibbs drivers don't make it, obviously all the SHR drivers don't make it, and all the Hendrick drivers don't make it. Whereas a few years ago, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can just pencil everybody from all those teams right into the playoffs.
Oh, I remember like when the playoffs, like the first couple of years, you're always like, okay, well, I mean, if you're driving for Hendrick, you should never miss the playoffs. Penske, like, no. And as this has played out, we have seen the Jimmy Johnson miss it. We've seen Tony Stewart. I mean, like the list goes on, and it's no given. And things happen during the course of a year, and here we are.
Yeah, at this time, the only teams that would have like everybody make it, right? Like in terms of everybody in the playoffs. Because I mean, if Bubba gets in, then both 2311 cars, but right now he's not in. You could have both Trackhouse cars in if Suarez is able to get in. And then RFK. RFK is both solidly in the points right now. Other than that, yeah, you're not going to have both Childress cars make it the way things are looking. So very odd year where you're not going to have, sort of a team-wide dominance in the playoffs, it seems like. So
it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, did you just say jinx?
Yeah, we said the same thing at the exact same time.
Oh, yeah, we did that earlier tonight.
We did, yeah. We do that a lot, actually.
Oh, well, same brain, I guess, after talking for so many years. What else from tonight stuck out? I when we started this podcast, I was thinking to myself, this isn't going to be a very long podcast because I just don't know. We don't have like this manufacturer. I mean, you would have had Ford up there, but Ford loses another chance to get a win. This could have been a really big night for they started in the top six.
Top six.
All Fords from qualifying. You're like, oh, super speedway, and just the way it shook out, it just wasn't a Ford night. You can't really judge performance off an Atlanta race because it's a super speedway type thing. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think? What else jumps out to you?
RFK was, yes, you can't judge overall season-long performance off of this, but what RFK continues to do, whether it's on road courses or intermediates, they've got both drivers right now in the playoffs, and they continue to impress me with how far they have come. They are knocking on that door. They still have that. They got to make that next big step, which is really hard to do. But Brad is running better now. Chris is running good every single week. It feels like. Doesn't matter the style of track. It seems like they're in the mix, and yeah, they've got to win. They've got to they got to take that next big step. But what they've been able to do this year is been good. And tonight was one that if you're them, you feel like you probably got one, you let one get away, but the circumstances being what they were, you can't do it. And the other thing, a part of this too, is how about Brad Keselowski? I mean, in the spring, you come here and you were, I don't know how, you were so close to winning and snapping that long losing streak, and you finish second. And then you come here, you have a great run and almost win this thing. It's like Atlanta owes him one, I feel like.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I was just watching this race and again, listening to he and TJ. I mean, they are just both so good at what they do on drafting tracks. It's unbelievable. I mean, if there was a Hall of Fame Brad's going to be in the Hall of Fame anyway, but if there was a Hall of Fame for drafting tracks alone, I mean, Brad is just like an all-time great when it comes.
His instincts are so good. Like he knows, what I like about him is he decides he's going to make a move and he commits to doing it. There's no hesitation. There's no pausing. It's I'm doing it. And that I think is a huge difference because a lot of times you see guys a little hesitant, like afraid to make a move or, oh yeah, I'm clear, but am I really clear? And they're just not there. It's like, there is none of that with Brad. It is I am doing this. I'm doing this now. And it's like, he knows what's going to happen. He knows what to do, how to be defensive, and he also is really good at anticipating what other people are going to do and then countering them.
By the way, Steven Stump from Front Stretch, who's really good at looking up stats and all this stuff, tweeted that This is the first time that NASCAR has had back-to-back shortened races since 2003.
Wow.
Because obviously last week was shortened due to darkness.
No.
So 2003. So this
Wow.
had not happened in the whole chase/playoffs era
20
until
years.
now.
It's crazy.
Yeah, interesting, huh? What do you think of the whole Harvick tribute? You like that? You're a history buff.
Yeah, it was good. It was cool to see. It was fun. He seemed to get into it, which is fine. And it's
That's it? I thought you'd be more like, wow, that was pretty.
I honestly I barely saw it. So I
Oh,
saw it later. I mean, it's good. I think it's cool. I mean, obviously this track for him is in RCR has got special connections, and it was good to see. And you could tell that Richard liked it a lot too. So yeah.
no helmet for Richard.
Yeah, he's fine. How fast was he going? He couldn't have been going that fast.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. He had his belts on.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was the best Harvick tribute so far. We've sort of been waiting for like the Harvick tributes to sort of ramp up. He hasn't got any rocking chairs or anything like that, like the Rusty Mark Martin retirement tour back in the day.
Yeah.
But you know, he's gotten a few tributes, but now that he's coming back to tracks for the last time, where you know most of the tracks so far had been like, well, he'll come back here later, so we don't really need to do anything right now.
We've
I
had a
feel like
lot of tracks though where I mean, even in Fontana, which is basically his home track, there wasn't you were there. Was there anything there that they did for him?
they did something, didn't they? Did he pace the field of the 4 wide or something?
I
I
think
can't
he like
remember.
maybe, but I don't know. That's
Yeah.
not really I don't know. There
Sonoma,
was
they inducted him into the walk of or their wall of fame, I think. Yeah, there hasn't been like big gestures so far, maybe, but
I mean I'm pretty convinced like we had that run there of well when Jeff Gordon did his retirement tour and he was getting gifts like what he got mules one week. I
he
remember
got
like
little
he's getting
ponies from Eddie Gossage,
yeah
right?
ponies from Getty Gossett. The best one was the Kentucky. He got at Kentucky. He got a bunch of whiskey, which was looked amazing. And I think for other drivers, I mean, we've heard this. Other drivers have said they saw this and they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to go through the dog and pony show of this every single week, where every week they're dragging on all these gifts and everything else, and it's like we're good." So,
Well, I think Atlanta, especially with
but
Harvick's history there, the
yes,
place
there
where
are special.
Harvicking became a thing, and
Yeah, no. I mean, in this instance, though, like it is worth doing something special. And the other thing is too, though, this really wasn't asking anything of Kevin to do anything additional. Like putting him in a spot where, he had like no one's handing him ponies, and he has to sit there and be like act excited about. I just got 2 ponies. What the hell am I going to do with these stupid things?
yeah, no,
Like I
I
mean, this was
understand that. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, this was just a hey, we need you to drive around the track, and
yeah. I mean, where are the more you know the final big special things that you want to see him honored? Where are the tracks that? I mean, obviously Phoenix is going to be. It's not only his best track, but it's his final race, so that's going to be like a really big one.
yeah.
And the championship.
That's a good question. Let me look at the schedule. I gotta look at the schedule quick.
I mean,
I would say Indianapolis because he's had a lot of success
yeah,
there.
yeah.
But
Indianapolis would be a good one.
boy, that's a really like to me. Fontana was the one track where I thought you could kind of get away with something. Let's see. Isn't he Michigan? He's really good at Michigan. He's always been really good at Michigan.
He's obviously raced a ton at Martinsville,
Oh,
Richmond. Oh,
Bristol,
Bristol. Yeah,
Bristol's definitely the one. I mean, there's so many good and bad, not bad necessarily, but memorable. Whether it's winning races there, whether it's
the
confronting Greg
Chase
him
Elliott
jump.
thing.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff.
Are you going to release the tape that weekend, Jordan?
No chance. Never have shown anybody. Never will
That's the
show
weekend you
anybody.
should do it. To honor Kevin Harvick, you should say, and now I'm going to play the tape
Maybe
from.
he and I could do like a sit down. We could do like a special teardown sit down, and we could watch the tape together, and we could like each give our perspective on things.
There you go. He can replace me as co-host that week. That'd be great.
Yeah, he would. He would probably be very thrilled by that.
All right. Anyway, did you have a take on the Justin Haley Xfinity thing? Because I know people have their feelings about that. I feel like we're going to end up on the same spot on again, which is obviously the minority again. Nobody seemed to believe Justin Haley for the Xfinity race that he was sputtering on fuel, and that's why he didn't push Daniel Hemrick or help Daniel Hemrick or whatever.
What evidence are they offering to support that opinion?
Well, that he kept going around the track.
we see that all the time. I mean, we see it though. Guys will, I mean, Michael McDowell was supposed to be, how many laps ago was Michael McDowell supposed to be out of fuel, and he went 91 laps tonight. So, I mean, it does happen. It's not unprecedented. And also his teammate, by the way, ran out of fuel too. So I don't know. I need
I agree. Believe you.
I
I
need
mean,
to see a lot. Yeah.
I
I
think
need to see a
Justin
lot
Haley
more.
was sputtering, and so he got down low to not cause a wreck. And maybe there's a move he could have made. I don't know, but things happen, and I really don't think. I don't know.
I-
I just why would you
It's
get out
not,
of the car and say, why would you get out of the car and that be your excuse if that wasn't the case? You would come up with something else like, oh, I thought I just made the wrong move, or I thought he was going to do this, or miscommunication, or something like that, rather than I was spurring on fuel and I got down low to stay out of the way, or in
yeah.
case I ran out of fuel. That's a very specific
Yeah.
thing
And
to
it's
come up
not
with.
like
So
it's not unprecedented to say like you're coming to the line and you didn't get the restart you wanted to, or your car bobbles or something, or kind of hiccups. You're like, oh, I'm out of fuel. But it's like, no, you just, for whatever reason, there's no grip, there's no traction, it just slows down. I will say this, post race after the Xfinity race last night, Chris Rice and Matt Colleague were sitting there laughing and joking with Justin Haley, and they did not look like, three guys who were not on the same page. So,
okay.
if Justin Haley was pissed off or, whatever, or they were mad at him for whatever, it certainly didn't come across that way in pit road as they're sitting there laughing and joking.
All right. Well, should we do the good race poll? I feel like we're milking a podcast for a race that
No,
doesn't have
we're done. We got everything now. Let's,
okay. All right. Let's see. Chicago.
who won last week?
I guess you did.
I guess. I'm pretty sure it was spot on.
Yes, I think you got almost within like a couple tenths of a percent.
Yeah.
After I said, I said there was no way but here's the thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm actually happy I was wrong. No, I am, because
It restores your faith in humanity.
I was thinking that people hated the Chicago race. They were going to vote it too low because they didn't like Chicago, and they weren't really going to judge the race on, hey, it was actually a good race. But they did. They voted it was a good race, and they voted it. I mean, they voted that way. So that was a nice that was a relief to me. I was like, well, that's nice. I didn't expect that, obviously. But yeah, when you said that, I was like, absolutely not. No way. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you get to go first for this one. Good luck.
I know. I'm gonna go high, and I'm gonna regret. I'm torn because part of me, like, I personally think this was a good race. So I've got a number in mind, but I also saw your Twitter mentions, and there were some upset people. So trying to figure out how that factors in. Here's an I was gonna go 82, but with the rain and everything else that plays down, I'm gonna scale it back. I'm gonna go 77 as the guess, 77%.
So I would personally vote it in the 90s, right? Like, because I think it was awesome. Like, I really do think it was one of the best races of the year.
I think it needed a finish, like a natural, or not a natural finish, but it needed he needed to race to the checker
Oh, sure. I mean, that would have been nice, but it was freaking awesome. Like, the action that I got as a viewer was like, this is thrilling. This is great stuff. So, yeah, but like, obviously, like you said, there's a lot of people that we could see on Twitter that were like, no, I didn't like this. So how many of those people will vote it down because of that? That's what I'm wondering, right?
And there's also the fact that a lot of people still miss the old Atlanta.
Yeah, maybe. I think less after tonight. Like, I think if you're keeping an open mind like I am, look, I say, well, I didn't like that they did this. I think it was a mistake. Why are they doing this? They're not going to be able to go back if it doesn't work. And now I think, wow, that was a pretty good decision. So
Can we just
good,
say this
good
too?
on,
I just want to
yeah.
make sure we're clear on this too. I don't want to see this everywhere. Like we said it, when this first
No.
happened.
I still think this is enough. 6 Super
100%.
Speedways is enough.
100%. No, I don't need to see this at Texas, which they're not going to do. I don't want to see this anywhere else. Like this
No.
is just keep it here in Daytona and Talladega, and that's it. We're good.
Even if you have 80 year, that's too much. Then you're like, oh, here's another one. I think they're spaced out just fine because now the next one is not till the end of the regular season, so 7 more weeks. So that's fine. Okay, let's just keep it like that. 6. It's enough.
Perfect.
Nobody else do this. But yes, Atlanta did the right thing. Kudos to them. Didn't think it would work. I didn't even think it was possible to make a mile and a half into a track like this.
I never they announced it. I was like, what? They're going to do what?
Yeah.
It's
Anyway, so my guess is going to be, I'll just say 83. I do think it'd be high. I think it's going to be in the 80s, but I don't know why I would doubt you at this point because you just seem to like nail the.
you doubt me all the time for everything. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's true.
I do. No, it's accurate. All right. So 77, you said?
77's my guess.
All right. Big Joe Wall's going to update us on Threads now.
Ooh, yeah.
By the way, we're both on Threads.
Yeah.
I'm Jeff underscore Gluck there. I don't know what are you the same username as
same
Twitter?
username? No, because it's my Instagram.
So it's
Instagram Jordan. Name. It's Jordan M. Bianchi.
Okay. What's your middle name?
Mitchell.
Mitchell?
Mitchell.
What? I never knew this.
Yeah, I don't know your middle name. What's yours?
Matthew.
Jeffrey Matthew? Okay.
What? You're frowning? I've had this name for 42 years. Now you're going to be like, I don't love that.
It's kind of generic.
Okay. Jordan Mitchell, huh? Okay.
You don't meet many Mitchells. There's not many Mitchells out there.
Mitch? Can I start calling you Mitch?
Absolutely not.
Oh, you don't like that?
I've never actually had anybody ever called me that in my life, so I have no idea how I would,
Oh man, this is.
I don't even think I would respond because I've never been called that in my life, and I wouldn't even think about it. The only person who ever calls me by my middle name is my mom when she's pissed at me, which still happens to this day.
Wow, she's like Jordan Mitchell Bianchi.
100%, yeah.
Wow.
There's usually an F-bomb somewhere in there too.
My mom will use my full name. No, not anymore. But never with the F-bombs. So that's interesting. Wow, Mitch. All right. Well, we have something to troll you with. So
yeah, again, there's no influence on me whatsoever. So
by the way, the radar shows that it's still raining in Atlanta with more to come.
I can't, I'm literally looking out a window here in this wonderful room I'm in, and I can't tell if it's raining. You can't see me poke my head. I can see the windows are wet, but because it rained, but I don't know if it's still raining. So.
No, I'm looking at the radar right now. It's still dark green, and there's orange and yellow on the way.
More. But when I walked over here, it was a very light sprinkle.
Oh, so, okay. Well,
but,
I guess
but
they could have gone back to.
I don't know. I don't know. But there's also lightning in there. No, I mean, it was. Don't do that, please.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, why don't they restart the race now? They could run. It's like, dude, it's 12:05. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
12:05 on a Monday morning.
Yeah, 12:05 on a Monday morning.
Yeah,
like,
not a Sunday.
This race was just fine the way it was.
Yeah. All right. Well, New Hampshire next week. Neither of us are going, so we'll be back in our respective home studios for that one, and then I'll be at Pocono. That'll be cool. Fun. Yeah, looking forward to that. So, everybody, of course, thanks as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time on the Teardown. See you, everybody. You want to say bye to our YouTube friends?
Bye, everybody on YouTube.
All right. See you later.
I don't know, we're supposed to be emotional, like goodbye. I don't know, heartfelt, just said bye.
All right. See you, Mitch.